Welcome to Success in Business. We are a panel of entrepreneurs who are experts in our field, and we're here to share our nuggets of wisdom with you. Today, our topic is solve problems like a pro, and we're going to introduce ourselves starting with Alan.
Hi, I'm Alan Tracy, a systems developer and business investor based in the UK. I've lived and worked in Australasia as well as the UK. Originally, I started out my career in mechanical and in industrial engineering. I like to know how things are made and how they work, and that spurs me on to finding better, more efficient ways of doing things. So the natural progression for me was to learn about and be involved in computer systems development. Systems that can simplify and control more complex systems, such as you get in engineering. But I've also been involved in various other industries, including finance, manufacturing, law, and even in the development of a marine club management system. More recently, I've started investing in business. My inquisitive mind likes to know how well they're doing, what they could do better, and just what other options are available or improvements could be made. Ultimately, I look for ways to help people and to solve problems where I can. On a personal note, I've got 3 young adult children, and I like to go for walks in the countryside. I live near the Surrey Hills, so there's lots of nice countryside around me. Thank you.
Very nice. Okay, over to you, Phil.
Hi, I'm Phil Jepson. I'm also from the UK, as you can probably tell. I live in the better half of the UK in the north, the proper UK. I'm a lawyer by trade, trained as a lawyer, practiced as a lawyer for quite a while, but then got a taste for business, left the law and set up my own business in 2004. So I've been owning and running businesses since then. I set up and ran quite a successful legal headhunting business in the UK and ran that for 15 years, but then got really interested in the idea of buying businesses and decided that that was the future, that was the way to go. So 2 years ago, almost 3 years ago now, actually, I set out on a journey to build a group of businesses. We've acquired 2 businesses so far, and hopefully about to acquire 2 more, which is all very exciting. And through the process of going out and looking at businesses, we got interested in engineering, which is kind of funny given what Alan just said about his background. So we're actually focusing on buying engineering businesses. That's our thing. So I'm now the proud founder and director of Allied Global Engineering, which is the umbrella company for our engineering portfolio. Outside of that, I've got 2 kids, both of whom are grown up, both of whom are entrepreneurial actually, which is great. And my daughter works with me. She's my business partner in Allied Global. My
Awesome.
my son now lives in Sweden. And is the CEO of an international media company. So he's sort of doing okay on his own.
Wow.
Excellent.
And I've got a dog.
Awesome. What's your dog's name?
My most recent accomplishment. He's called Bo. He's beautiful.
Oh, great. Okay, thank you so much, Phil. Rob, go ahead.
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm excited to be here. So Rob Evans is my name. I'm a weight loss coach and health strategist. And I often say to people when I meet them internationally, can you tell where I'm from? And some people say, oh, I think you're from here and whatever. So I'm from Australia, if you can't already tell from my accent. So I'm based in Melbourne, Australia. And look, I'm an international speaker. I'm an internationally published author as well. What I do is I work with people to help them improve their health and wellness through structured, individually tailored, meal plans and workouts and mindset work, which hence the name of my show, the Mental Toughness and Body Show. So I love just having a positive impact in changing people's lives. It's just something really exciting that I do. I also help coach other fitness businesses to create six figures at home. So that's another element to what I do. By way of background, I actually started my career as a chartered accountant, and I worked in that field for about 19 years, and then realized how boring that work was and didn't really fulfill me in a way that I really wanted. And realized that what I do now, so I've been like training myself and learning all about my craft for like the past 34 years now. And so I've been in business 13 years this year, doing what I do. It's so fulfilling. I just love what I do. And now with COVID and today's topic, it's really helped me get to know people, like yourselves here on the call today. And I find that really, really exciting. I'm also, I love investing. It's a hobby of mine. The other main hobby of mine is working out and looking after myself. I think that's really exciting. I've got two daughters, 14 years old and 16 years old, two beautiful kids, and just love sharing life with them and living the dream, really. So I'm just excited to get in today's topic and hear how we all solve problems.
Wonderful, wonderful. So we'll start our spotlight time, but I'm going to encourage all of us to mute except for Alan, and Alan's going to go first. Over to you, Alan.
Thank you. Well, just imagine a life with no problems. What would that be like? What would you do? Maybe go to the beach or lie by the swimming pool, relax, enjoy each moment. But could this perfect life happen with no problems? You could end up being sunburnt, or there could be annoying insects around you, or other people might not have the same idea of fun as you that are around you. I don't think the ideal life without problems can actually exist, at least not this side of heaven. So if there have to be problems encountered for each of us, my question today is, how can we deal with the problems? So life's all about choices. And when we're faced with a problem, we want to make the best choice, which produces the most desirable result or outcome. How do we ask the right questions and get the right answer to make the right choice? We need to be able to solve a problem by finding a solution to the problem. How do we not create new and perhaps bigger problems with our solution? Sometimes a problem could just be in the way we view the situation. Instead of viewing the situation as a problem, it could be viewed as a challenge, something that you know or believe there's a solution to, something you can apply a bit of thought and effort to and resolve the situation. I used to have a boss who said, "Don't bring me problems, bring me solutions," which actually is quite empowering for the employee and probably beneficial to the company overall, particularly if the solution was listened to, is a viable one, and it was implemented. A key element to solving problems is to focus on the solutions rather than the problem. When you focus on the problem, it can become bigger and harder than it actually is, leading you down a negative train of thought, while focusing on the solution is a more creative and productive way to deal with these situations. Often problems can be broken down into smaller elements and dealt with a piece at a time to fix the overall problem. So instead of being overwhelmed by the problem or what the solution might look like, we can chip away at it in smaller, more manageable chunks and provide many mini solutions.
Nice.
If we've experienced a problem ourselves and overcome it, we're often in a good position to avoid the problem in the future and perhaps also help others avoid the problem or to get through it quicker and easier if it's unavoidable. So as humans, we have the ability to look back on our experience and see why things have happened, and also the amazing ability to project into the future and see what could happen using the law of cause and effect. For example, if I put my drink too near the edge of the table and it falls off, I lose my drink and have to clean it up off the floor and possibly the container it was in. I can use this past information to avoid the problem happening again. Simply don't put the drink too near the edge of the table.
Yes.
So that also reminds me of some other principles that are useful when problem solving. So let's say there's a cliff and people keep falling off the cliff and getting badly hurt. One way of solving the problem might be to station an ambulance at the bottom of the cliff. Then it can get the injured people to hospital as soon as possible. However, a better solution would be to create a fence at the top of the cliff and stop people falling off altogether. So similarly, you may have heard the saying, give a man a fish and feed him for a day, teach a man to fish and feed him for life. The latter solution providing a better resolution to the problem of the man's ongoing hunger. Life's full of problems or challenges, and how we approach them can make a difference to how we deal with them. To throw in a couple of Albert Einstein quotes, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Basically, you need to make a change to get a solution result rather than the same old problem result. The other quote is, no problem can be solved from the same level of consciousness that created it. Sometimes we need to rise to a new level of consciousness or way of thinking to be able to solve the problem being faced. Dr. John DeMartini says, we need to see things as on the way, not in the way. As a personal example, I've tried to use problem-solving skills in the development of various software applications. When looking at the desired end, there are steps needed to be taken along the way to getting there. While analyzing these steps, I look for ways to reduce the complexity and shorten the process of working through them. So from an end user's point of view, the inner workings might look like a mess or a black box, but the end result can be something as simple as plug and play, or it just works. This then reduces the potential for more problems that the user could encounter, as well as solving the initial problem. You might or might not remember that it wasn't always as easy to connect to the Wi-Fi connection as it is these days.
I remember.
Another area that's worth noticing, particularly as it gets more and more prominent in society, is AI, or artificial intelligence, and how it could be useful in this area of problem solving. Though again, it could bring with it new problems with its implementation. So just to tie it up, problems are going to happen in life. You can find ways to deal with them or solve them or reduce their magnitude, or you can bury your head in the sand and find out how they can grow. I mentioned a few strategies for dealing with problems. So we can make choices. The way we view the problem makes a difference. We can use our experience and cause and effect to avoid them in the future. And I gave an example of working through the problem so that it becomes easy when encountered again. Using AI might just bring us closer to the ideal world by the pool or at the beach with no apparent problems. But going back to the possible problems that AI might raise, there's the legal responsibilities of an automatically driven car. If the self-driving car has an accident, whose fault will it be? Also, AI might wrongfully decide to accuse or indict people, or even take over the world, but hopefully the latter can remain in the realms of science fiction. Thank you.
Yes, hopefully. Great job. Thank you so much, Alan. Okay, Alan, go ahead and mute yourself, and we'll turn the time over to Phil.
Hi. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, brilliant. Thank you. I did forget to explain why I'm not in the studio when I did my introduction, but I hope you'll forgive me, but I'm actually mobile at the moment, so that's why I'm not in a studio and wearing a tie. Okay, so problem solving is, well, the ability to solve problems effectively is probably one of the most important things in life and in business. It can mean the difference between success and failure in business, and it can mean the difference between life and death, literally life and death in normal day-to-day living. The good news is, Alan talked a bit about the idea of processes for problem solving, is I've actually got a process to talk to you about, which comes from the military originally, but is a simple 4-step process that we can all use to help us make better decisions in a more efficient and timely way. And the 4 steps, the initials are OODA, which stands for observe, orient, decide, and act. So basically, the first step is observe. So when you come across something which you think is a problem, the first question is, what am I seeing? What is this thing? Am I seeing the problem, or is what I'm seeing just a symptom of the problem? If it is a symptom, then you need to investigate to find out underneath the symptom what the problem is. Is it a confined problem or is it unconfined? I'll talk about this a bit more in a couple of minutes. And is it one problem actually, or am I actually seeing several problems? The problem is, unless you take a bit of time to actually gather data and understand what you're really looking at, then you run the risk of, again, something else that Alan mentioned, I think, of doing something which doesn't actually solve anything but makes things worse. And that's clearly not something you want to do. So first step is observe, give you a chance to just gather the information and get a better understanding of what it is you're actually looking at. Second step, orient. And this is really a review, an analysis of the data that you've collected. It's understanding what the problem is within its environment. I talked about confined and unconfined problems. Sometimes a problem is just a discrete thing which exists. Sorry, my car engine's just switched itself on out of the blue. That's interesting.
Oh, no.
Which exists on its own, and you can just tackle it and that's it. But sometimes the problem is actually connected to other things. It's not like a simple confined thing. It's part of a bigger system. So you've got to understand what it is you're looking at. And again, now I've got the data, am I looking at one problem, or is it actually a chain of problems? And at the moment, I can only see part of it. And if there's several problems here, do they interact with each other? Are they separate things, or are they related? Because again, that impacts on how you potentially want to deal with it. So you need to see the problem within the context of the big picture. Having done that, the next step is decide. One of the big things that makes a difference between people who succeed in life and people who don't succeed in life is the ability to make decisions and the confidence to make decisions. If you're dealing with a problem that is what I've called a confined problem, then often the decision is a binary one. Do I do it or don't I? Do I buy the spare part or don't I buy the spare part? Do I pay the money or don't I pay the money? Do I fix it or do I leave it? So in a way, those problems are quite simple because it is like it's one or the other, and then it's a balance of economics or whatever as to which way you go. The difficult ones are the unconfined problems, where you're looking at something and you think, well, if I touch this, that's okay, it might fix that, but that then might knock on and cause something somewhere else. And in business, you get this a lot. Someone comes to you and says, I don't know, Fred is kicking off on the shop floor. So it's like, what do? Do I go down and discipline Fred? If I discipline Fred, then what impact's that going to have on other people? What impact is it going to have on Fred? And then what's Fred going to do that's going to impact on other people? So it's often not that simple. So it's then a case of thinking, well, okay, if I make the wrong decision, what happens then? Is it a big deal or not a big deal? Because if it's not a big deal and you don't make the right decision, then fine, we can all move on. We pay the cost if we've got it wrong and we move on. But if it's a bet the farm type decision, then that's a bit different. So quite often in business, you get these situations where it's clearly a complex situation that probably impacts on other things. And it may be you can't figure out straight away what the cost is of getting it wrong. So then you've got to make a decision. You can't ignore it because, again, as Alan said, if you ignore it, it's only going to get worse. So what do you do? So this actually came from someone that I admire a lot. I read a lot of stuff about the US Navy SEALs, and there's a guy called Jocko Willink who's written some books, and he now does management consulting. And his thing was this: when you're in a scenario, you've got a problem, you need to make a decision. It's not immediately obvious what the right answer is, and it's a complex situation. Then what you should do is take the smallest step you can in the direction that you think is the right direction. Make the decision, do that, and then you go back around the loop. So last step in the loop is act. I've sort of touched on that already. So once you've made the decision, do it. You've gathered the data, you've oriented, you worked out what the data means, you've made your decision, act. Don't hesitate, don't look back, do what you've decided to do. Take the action, and then once you've taken the action, that's when you repeat the loop. That's when you go back to the start and observe, has it solved it? Has it not solved it? If it hasn't, okay, you go through the circle again. So observe, orient, decide, act. That's my recipe for a perfect life.
That's awesome.
Right work.
Excellent. I love that. Thank you. So memorable too. Okay, we'll turn the time over to Rob.
All right, thank you. Wow, isn't this great? Just hearing how everybody, thinks about problem solving. So what I've come up with in my thinking is 4 strategies for solving problems. And I think one of the problems with problems is the word problem, because it associates so much negativity. You've got a problem, you think, oh my God, I want to run away from this. And I think as humans, we're not programmed to solve problems. And when we're all looking for staff and stuff, what's one of the key things that we want in the person? How good are they at solving problems? So I just wanted to walk through in these 4 strategies, things that I've found personally that have worked really well for me. And step 1 would be about focus. You've got a problem, let's focus on it. Don't just push it to one side and say, oh, I'll come back to that. Because personally, I've found that that tends to lead to procrastination and just delaying actually addressing whatever it is that's going on. So that would be the first thing that I would say. The second thing would be how we view what it is with this problem. And these next 3 points have completely changed my life in terms of how I view what's going on. And the first one is seeing the problem as a chance for personal growth. Okay, so not seeing it as something bad, but saying, okay, this is something really challenging right now. How can I grow from this? That's the question that I ask myself. So the problem that I'm going to talk about right here that's relevant for all of us is the global pandemic, right? So 2 years ago on the 23rd of March, we were shut down here in Australia. And look, Melbourne, where I'm based, we've been shut down more than any other place on the planet. Yay, what a great award to have. So you can see that as a problem. But when it came, because I thought, what a really unique opportunity we're living through right now. And I thought about my grandparents. Now all my family has passed on, but I thought about my grandparents, thought, wow, imagine if you were born in an era where you lived through the First World War, then you went through, I may get the chronological order wrong here, but the Depression, and you had the Spanish flu, the Depression. And then just when you start to get things back on track, you get the Second World War come along and you go through the whole thing again. Just crazy. And I thought, wow, what were they doing at that time? How did they get through and, become better people out of this? So I look at any problem that comes my way and I ask myself that question, where is the personal growth in this for me? And for me, the Mental Toughness and Body Show was born out of COVID. So I thought, I talk about all this stuff, but how can I use this as an example for my children and for myself to step up and say, well, yeah, this is a problem, but what a great opportunity for me to be a better person out of this. So that's the first thing that I ask myself. And the second point is about what can I learn from this? Again, what can I learn about myself from this? How calm can I remain? I'm a really like cool as a cucumber in any situation, but I'm always looking for, so here's a problem right now. What can I learn from this so that I can grow personally? How can I grow my business? How can I grow the people around me in this environment? And so already from those first couple of points, it's impossible to have a problem and face it negatively if you really absorb yourself in them. So I'm saying, okay, here's COVID. How can I grow from this? Not like, oh my God, it's so bad. How can I survive from this? It's like, no, how can I grow from this really bad situation right now? And then what can I learn from it? What can I learn about myself? I can learn about myself that I'm really resilient. You know, I'm resourceful. I'm resourceful in trying to find, how do I address this, everything that's going on here, to work better? And what a perfect example right now we have of the four of us connecting, Zoom. Okay. You know, so one of the first things that I had to do for my business, because it's very much a face-to-face business, is we had Zoom. I can continue doing what I do because of, you know, what we've mentioned here today, Wi-Fi, you know, the technology that we have access to. So I think that's, you know, that's an amazing thing. And then the last point is, how do we see this problem that we're facing right now as an opportunity for, well, learning and personal growth? But what else is there out there? So again, COVID, there's an opportunity here right now. Now, I'll tell you the biggest one that happened for me with my business was, previously, the clients, even just saying this out loud makes it sound stupid, but it's just where your thinking can go. Pre-COVID, my thinking was, okay, unless I've got a product that I can sell to people around the world, I need to work with people within a 15-kilometer radius of me, because they have to come to me to do that work. But how limiting is that? And guess what? COVID. And I thought, wow, now I can work with Stacy, I can work with Alan, I can work with Philip around the world. Why? Because we've got Zoom. Well, that's the solution, Zoom. But hang on, I'm still doing the same thing. But why didn't I think about that before? And it seems silly, but also it opened up the opportunity for me to work with somebody around the corner from me that was physically locked down. We weren't allowed to go 5 kilometers and so forth. I can work with them, cameras on. We can do exactly what I do in person. But my thinking wasn't at that point. But now, because we've all been conditioned to, oh, do you want to catch up? Well, we can't do it in person, so you can't catch up. Well, what are you talking about? Let's just jump on Zoom and we can connect that way. So for me personally, I found that these strategies here have really helped me, because there can't be anything that comes into my life. And if I use like some of the worst things that happen in our life, like death, you know, like losing somebody that's really close to you, if you ask yourself those same questions, how can I grow from this personally, from someone passing? What can I learn from it? How can I grow personally? And where's the opportunity in this? As hard as it can be to lose somebody, you can answer those things really positively. And for me, there can't be anything that comes into my life that's trying to, you know, knock me off my path, that I go into those 3 states and I think, wow, hang on, this might be hard right now, but if I really look at those things and I stay focused, then these huge problems become doable. And I just find that you just have a completely different outlook to looking at them. And so I welcome problems into my life. So it's like, come on, if we've all lived through COVID successfully, how can anything knock us off our, you know, off our foundations? So over to you, Stacy.
Nice. Thank you so much. Oh, I've learned so much from all of you. This has been amazing. You are all exemplary. Like you are living what you're talking about. You're not just, oh, well, I think you're supposed to do this and I'm not doing a very good job, but you're actually like living it. And so I just feel so inspired by all of you. Thank you so much. And I didn't intend to, but I'm saving my introduction for right now. I realized I didn't introduce myself on our first go around, so I will do it now. So I'm Stacy McPherson. I'm the mother of 7 children and the grandmother of 3. I've lived internationally all over the world. My husband is a diplomat, so we live in a new country every 3 to 5 years. So I've lived in Israel and Thailand and in Hungary. So that's been a great experience to live, learn the culture, learn the language, and get to know the people all over the place. and hoping to I'm going to be in the United States for 3 years and then hoping to take another international assignment. And my US post is going to be Hawaii, so I can't complain too much there. So there's a bit of an international culture in Hawaii. So I'm a business coach. I'm helping people to be able to increase their bottom line while not sabotaging the other areas of their lives. So when you look for a coach, you want to find a coach who is living the lifestyle that you want. Are they working 20 hours a day? And if they are, is that the lifestyle that you want? And is that sustainable? And so look at the lifestyle of your coach and say, do they, if it's something that's important to you, do they embody that? And so I'm here to say that if you want a life that includes loving, warm relationships and a long-term partner, if you want warm, rich relationships with your children, with your grown-up children, and if you want a world where you travel, where you experience life and cultures, and if you want health and wellness, do you want to age gracefully and be healthy and have your energy and stamina for each day, you actually want to look to a coach who embodies that, because like it or not, they're going to coach you to do exactly what they're doing in every area. It will impact all areas of your life, not just the one area that you're being coached on. And so one of the things that is unique to me and I bring to the table is a warm, loving relationship of 30 years this year. It will be 30 years, and health and wellness and fitness to a high level, and also a successful business. My business includes several of my grown-up children. I know that's the case with some of you as well. And living, working, partnering with your children is so fulfilling. You see their growth and development, and you're with them on the journey, and it's absolutely amazing. It's just so rewarding. So I'm grateful for that opportunity. And so I'll go ahead with my content. And I was so excited about this topic. Solving problems, it's so important. It's so critical. It's it's in every aspect of our life. We are either succeeding or not succeeding in anything that we're doing. We're going forward. We're solving problems is what we're doing. And so I really love how widespread this topic is and how impactful it is if we're successful at solving problems. And I agree with what some of you have already said about it's how you look at the problem. I think Rob was talking about how if you see it as a problem or if you see it as a challenge, you're going to take different steps. So seeing things as a challenge versus a problem. And then also Alan said that he quoted, and you'll have to remind me who you quoted, but it was that it's not on the way, it's not in the way, it's on the way. Who was that?
That was Dr. John DiMartini.
Nice. Yes. I love that so much. It's what you're experiencing as you go. It's not something that's keeping you from your end result, because if you keep taking steps forward, and especially using Phil's force for the acronym, use those things to keep taking steps. And I love how you said, Phil, that you take the smallest step. Like when you feel stuck, if you can just take the smallest step and then reevaluate, take the next step. If you're moving forward, it's so much better. You're not stuck anymore, and it changes so much about the experience. So much value. So I'd like to give the definition of problem. It's a matter or situation regarded as unwelcome or harmful and needing to be dealt with and overcome. So I'd like to say there's 3 parts of the problem. One, you have your detour, your obstacle, something that is basically standing between what you want, between you and what you want. And part 2 is an undesirable feeling, and part 3 is physical harm. So if you take those 3 and separate them, take your problem. So I'd like all of you to think of a problem right now, a problem or an obstacle or a challenge, something that you're working to overcome. And then think about what the 3 parts are. It's what is between you and your desired outcome, and then how do you feel about it, and then are you in danger? Is there any physical harm? So looking at those 3, it's very helpful to separate them out, because a lot of times people will go in and feel like something is a problem, and it's very much part 2, the emotional part, and they will just feel like there is this big problem, but it's if you can separate it and look, okay, what is actually happening? Is the thing an actual problem? And you can see that many times it's just a normal thing that's supposed to be there, that's part of your journey. You just have to do this step. Like, for example, if you're automating something in your business, or if you are creating a funnel or something like that, there are a lot of things that could come up that need to be covered, need to be done in order for that end result of having the automation. But there are all kinds of steps that you didn't anticipate. Like, you have to make different things talk to each other. You have to make your website talk to your calendar, and all of these things. And so you could say, I had this problem and this problem and this problem. You're like, but if you know the entire process, it's all part of the process. It wasn't a problem. It was just something you needed to do to get your desired outcome. And so a lot of times that emotional element of that undesirable feeling will say something, will make you say this is a problem, when really it's just a step in the process. It's something that you need to do in order to get your desired outcome. And so let's talk about this undesirable feeling for just a second. And I think what's typical is when you feel bad, when you're like, I have this problem, and you feel bad, people just kind of think that the problem made them feel bad. Like, I'm not getting what I want, of course I feel bad. Like, it's not even, I feel bad and I have this problem. It's the problem makes me feel bad. And so I really want to address this, because if, as much as possible, you can realize that there are two separate things. There is the thing that you're not getting, and then there's the emotional state. And when you separate them, then you can see that if you don't dwell, it's so much fun to help people do this. So I have a process in my coaching where we do this time after time after time to help people see that the thing that happens in life doesn't cause you the emotional state that you're in. It's your patterns and your belief systems that cause it. It's not the thing. And you can see patterns of this in your life where you thought something was going to make you happy and it didn't. You thought it was going to make you upset and it wasn't so bad. Like, the things aren't the thing that causes it. It's you. You bring that emotional state to the table. And so the more I thought about this, I was like, why do we do this? And why is this book so widespread? And why does everyone just think that the problem causes the emotional state? And so I started to think about how we were all raised, how we were all, how everything went down. And I was like, well, we were all babies together, right? We were all babies, and we all had, we needed to communicate. And so we would cry. And when you cry, then you feel bad emotionally, and then you get your needs met. So it was this pattern, this cycle we learned as babies. And honestly, it should have stopped when we learned to talk. Honestly, we should have stopped that cycle and said, oh, now I have words, I can communicate. I don't need to use this drop in my emotional state to get my needs met quickly. But it doesn't stop. And not only does it not stop as we grow into adults, but we use it on ourselves. We use it on others, and we use it on ourselves. So, like, for example, parents who make their children feel bad when they do something wrong, or your husband was late for a date and you make them feel bad because they were late. It's just this common pattern. This feeling bad gets outcomes. And so I just really help my clients separate it out and say, it actually doesn't make you feel bad. You believe it does, and you've created this pattern since you were a baby. You don't need to use that pattern anymore. And there's so much more available. Like, how do you feel when you feel like something's a challenge instead of a problem? You feel like, I can handle this, and I can do this, and I've got the talent and the ability, and I can do it. And so it's just one of the patterns that I've helped people see from the time that they were young. They used it. It was effective up to a point, but now we have so much more available. And so just helping everyone, I just want to help as many people as possible see that there are so many more options than just feeling bad in order to get what you want. And so, yeah, I would just like to close with that. So thank you all so much for joining us.
Well said, Stacey.
It's a great summary.
Great discussion today.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We're so glad to be here, and join us again next time for Success in Business.